Hey, welcome back, kings, queens, and in-betweens. Welcome back to the City Boys podcast. Hey. As you may know, at this point, I'm Grayson, and I'm here with some of my bestest friends in the whole wide world. Boys, say hi. Ethan,
What up, y'all? As you know, it's another day in paradise. We're still here in the corner, excited for another City Boys episode. Jacob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, all things considered. Brutal day of work for a Monday, but couldn't be more happy or glad to be talking ball with the homies. Grayson, would you like to introduce our guest today?
for the first time ever in City Boys history, it's a returning guest and friend of the podcast, our first ever City Boys crossover event, and you know him as the unofficial, official yapper of the St. Louis City FC. His mom loves us.
Bro,
It's City Views, Mr.
I'm about to
Views
walk out.
himself. Welcome
But it's great to
back.
be here. I appreciate you guys having me.
Of course, of course.
Got an announcement coming at the end too about some future of my page, some cool stuff coming. So stay tuned for that. It's great to be here.
Oh yeah,
Oh
we
man,
had to bring back the brain, bring it back for the off season because hey, we have a lot of city news to cover today.
no city games, but we still got so much city stuff to talk about. I'm super hyped because this man has just some of the best Instagram posts related to city. If you don't follow him, definitely go make that move. I love reading about it, probably more than the morning news, which makes sense because I don't think anyone loves reading the morning news anymore. But it's just great to have you on. I would say maybe potentially the certified yapper of St. Louis City. Will, do you claim that title?
I absolutely claim it. I yap a lot, yap proud, and I love it. Got an opinion for everything. So
I love it. I love it. And yeah, we do have a lot to cover today. Uh, but yeah, if you guys may have seen, we've been posting some cool player profiles on Instagram lately. Our City in 60 stuff that was low-key inspired by Mr. Views himself. So we had to give him the credit there. But yeah, keep your eyes out because we are going to go through the entire St. Louis City roster, cover all of your favorite players, get you some stats on them, get you more familiar with the squad. So, yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing a little bit today, too. But first, let's talk a little bit about some MLS news, and then we're going to hop back into St. Louis City. But we're going to start off with a little bit of a city adjacent one because there was another MLS draft. There's like four or five of them. A lot of them are lesser known, including this draft. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the draft specifically for teams to get the opportunity to draft players who are free agents. And the big name I'm covering today is Kip Keller, St. Louis City, not St. Louis City, not a player for St. Louis City, but St. Louis native. Um, you may know as the first guy to give us an assist
Yep.
for the other team with Austin FC. Just
Our
thank you
our
for that.
inaugural goal handed to
what a
us by
guy.
a St. Louis native for João Klaus to finish.
Just a beautiful thing, man. I just,
Sleeper Agent Keller.
yeah, that was some great memes coming out of that. And hey, for next season, if any other center backs want to like help us out a little bit, we will gladly show you some love on the podcast. So, but yeah, he just got picked up by Minnesota United. So he will be joining our boy Marcanic out there.
And am I mistaken, guys? I feel like we're starting to develop a little bit of a rivalry with our northern opponents. What do y'all think?
Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't like them.
I mean, the games have been pretty high scoring, and they've caught us on the rough end a couple times. So I could definitely see a little bit of disdain towards them from fans and players alike, especially returning players who are there for those rough moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Personally, as a fan, I'm a rival to every other team in the MLS
mm,
that isn't St. Louis. So
Get
they can
behind it.
all they can all come catch these hands. I don't care.
Yeah.
Time or place, name it.
yeah, there's definitely a couple teams that I like to put in this like box, kind of a little bit below Kansas City as number one enemy,
Yeah.
that would be like Minnesota United, Vancouver, and Dallas are like
Houston.
teams I
Yeah.
hate. Houston, maybe just Karaskia just gets in the box. But yeah, just a couple teams there. But let's chat about some other rumors around the league because from what I'm hearing, San Jose is going to be making some moves. As we have mentioned before, Bruce Arena, an MLS coaching legend, kind of an asshole, has moved to San Jose. And with him, he's bringing a couple big names, possibly Brandon Vasquez, bringing Brandon
Wow.
Vasquez back to the
Really?
league.
Be
Um,
insane.
yeah, San Jose is definitely in need of a dire rebuild. Uh, I don't know if Brandon Vasquez alone is going to be able to flip their fortunes, but
I'm not gonna lie, seeing San Diego just a couple months out from the season and only having 12 players on their roster just brings up so many questions for me. Maybe it's because we're used to seeing St. Louis City implement their second team and then their first team. Like that was so well organized. And looking back in hindsight, what a valuable move that ended up being. But I'm a little confused out of San Diego.
Mhm.
Fortunately for us and unfortunately for the rest of the league, they don't have Lutz pulling the strings. Lutz building
Very
this
true.
team
Very
from
true.
the ground up honestly put us in such a great position for the first season to be successful. And then all of the reasons we've covered in the past for the why our second season was not successful. But going into season three, we're definitely in a much better position than most clubs would be, San Diego included.
Oh, I
I,
mean, yeah, St. Louis building their roster almost having their entire roster almost ready to play together a year ahead of time was just absurd. Yeah, getting the boys some minutes with City 2 was just really an unheard of strategy when it comes to like building a squad. So I think it paid off for sure in that first season.
Speaking of St. Louis City, gentlemen, we have some big news on the home front, and I definitely want to hear Mr. View's take on the matter because we have officially signed our new head coach for next season. Olaf Melberg, Swedish man, the former Aston Villa captain, is coming to St. Louis. He's brought with him a new assistant coach. We know a little about him, but Will, what can you tell us?
Well, he's a great candidate. He was a candidate for the Sweden national team head coaching position. He's done his homework. He's young, connected. He's a great guy for the job. I'm really excited to see what he does with everything here. Especially, he loves the 3-4-3 formation, and I think that can translate really nicely into what we're going to do here at City next year.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I know Jacob has mentioned that he seems to be much more of a player's coach than we've had in years previous, which we only have 2 years previous. But I agree with that sentiment. It seems like he will connect with them on a different level just to get the best out of them on the field. So I'm hoping that we'll see some breakout seasons, for lack of a better term, and give some of the credit to
Mm.
Olaf.
Yeah.
Like a breakout season for one of our new signings potentially. A man who I just learned quite a bit about, Timo Baumgartel. If you haven't seen our City in 60 on Timo, check it out. He's kind of an interesting story, bounced around the Bundesliga just a little bit. I think one of the most notable things about Timo is that he defeated testicular cancer. That is a pretty insane asterisk to have by a player and honestly pretty notable. If he can beat cancer, I am not worried about San Jose running at him. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's a similar battle to fighting Kansas City, who are notably a cancer in the MLS. So I think he'll fit right in. I think he'll be able to battle
Uh,
Kansas City real well.
Oh yeah.
I would say already being a champion versus cancer, he's got that champion mindset coming into a team that, the city, while we are young as far as our professional team, we're begging for a championship. We're begging for some silverware. And yeah, him on the back line next to Nielsen, next to Kessler. I can't wait to see what we've got going next year.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna break down a little bit later in the episode what kind of formations Melberg can, play around with. So we're gonna save that for a little bit later in the episode, but I want to bring it back to some of our other transfer moves because there is possibly some more on the way. Lutz has been pretty secretive, but he has said that there is more movement on the way, of course. So let's get into another sort of rumor. There's a rumor that there is verbal agreement here for Aaron Opoku. Uh, and he's going to be a dynamic, super speedy, technical winger who can play on the left. He can play on the right. But it looks like he mostly plays left wing. Um, so that's going to be extremely interesting considering one of my favorite players is Celio Pompeu, who also primarily plays as a left winger and will be in other city news has returned to training. So there's definitely a lot of competition in our offense nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Celio and Opoku, if Opoku does join the squad, it's going to be a battle. There's going to be a good competitive battle between teammates of trying to get that starting spot, and Melberg's going to have his hands full for sure.
I
I
think
rate
it,
that though. It's a
yeah.
big difference. Sorry, Jacob, just from last season when we talked about, all right, Indiana Vasilev is our best choice. And that's not a knock on Indy. It's just that now we have different looks. And I'm very excited for Melberg to cook with that.
Yeah, in addition, like having so many options at every single position now gives us such a dynamic look going forward. In our last episode, Tom Franklin, the soccer zombie, alluded to it. Being able to play the formation and the players specifically to the matchup that we're going against, not necessarily to what we just have available, is going to be huge for us going against big teams like MLS Cup winner LA Galaxy. Like, what formation and players do we roll out there? Or even the smaller teams like No Shot at You, even though we've taken lots of shots this episode, San Jose, like we could rest some of our bigger name players and give some younger guys a shot and still come out with a result.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think that's something. It's a really, really good point that you and the Soccer Zombie have spoken about. I mean, it's something that, quite honestly, we've not had yet in City. We've had a little rotation, but we've never had the quality of fully rounded bench starters, even City 2 players that can get called up the way that I anticipate that we will this year. It's going to be pretty groundbreaking for us, and I think things are going to look a lot different. I don't think you're going to see the same roster week in and week out. I think we're going to see a lot better player management, health management. Hopefully, we don't run into made of glass Joachim Nielsen going down every other match, or obviously Celio's injury was a freak accident, as was Ustrak's, but those types of things will happen less frequently when we're able to manage the rosters and minutes a little bit better. And we'll be able to do that if we can get ahead early in the season and feel comfortable cycling the roster a little bit, letting some of these really class depth players, it's wild to think that Celio Pompeu could be a bench depth player this year with his level of quality. So
Yeah.
all of that type of stuff, we've not really had that before in our brief 2-year history. At least not to this extent, and we've very rarely, been healthy for more than 2 weeks at a time. So, if we can stay healthy, I think this year is going to be really interesting and probably very refreshing for City fans because we're going to, like you just said, be able to find ways to get results based on the opponent,
Mm.
and do a little bit of better planning, utilize scouting and game plans. It makes us less predictable, which is the most important thing, as we saw with the fall off between catching everybody off guard in 2023 versus being extremely predictable in 2024. So we'll have that variability and that quality to be able to pull it off effectively. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's a really good point that you brought up.
And in some more of a downer on some transfer news here,
You're gonna make me
guys,
cry.
it's back to the topic of San Diego and what the fuck are you guys doing? They decided to draft our man Kahima and ship him off to DC United, where he will not be nearly as loved as he will be in St. Louis City Red. But we'll still love him from afar. Just don't score on us, please. But yeah, they moved him in order to get about 400K in general allocation money,
Yeah.
which is a hefty fee. I mean, we all knew that Kahima is worth a bag. Like he's a baller. Unfortunately, I really wish we got to see it more at St. Louis City. We got to see him get some first team minutes this season. He got moved around a lot. He was very functional in the city team, filling in for people going down. He even played striker a little bit
Yeah.
this year, but I think found his best role in that eight, almost in that 10 when he was filling in for Leuven. Just a real machine. I think in the future he will develop to be a real creator. Um, and he's gonna be a problem. He's gonna be a problem someday. So keep your eye on Kahima. But yeah, if you guys want to say your piece on our boy, now's your chance.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, Jose Kojima is one of those players that's just got the highest ceiling. You're watching him develop every single week, every shift he puts in is better than the previous. Of course, within reason. He's similar to Akil Watts. He's that Johnny on the spot. He can play wherever you need him, and he'll do it effectively, and he'll work his absolute ass off. He's such a hard worker. My favorite moment of his that will probably live in my mind forever as really just a cool moment in city history was watching the game against Miami, where he's forced to come in like the 25th minute or something like that, plays the rest of the game, puts in a great shift. But after the game, as soon as the final whistle ends, where does Jose Kojima go? He goes to Sergio Busquets, one of the most incredible, talented, like CDM kind of guys to ever really touch the game. And he goes right up to him and starts picking his brain. Hey, what can I do differently? What did I do correctly? Tell me what you would do in this situation. There's clips of it. You can't hear what they're saying, but you can see that they're talking ball. Busquets is hand motioning at the pitch, talking about different areas of the pitch. And I just think that's being a student of the game. I know I kind of jokingly coined the nickname the student for him, but it makes so much sense because that's what he really did. That's why it's so rough to lose that. I think DC taking him is for 400,000 in GAM. That's you're gambling on a player who's maybe not starting caliber yet, but could potentially not only just be a starter, but could be a star on an MLS roster and potentially get you a big fee to send him off over to Europe somewhere. So I don't blame DC. I don't blame San Diego. It was a good business decision, but man, it hurts as a City fan because you just love watching guys like that play the game. It's like that's the beauty of the beautiful game. That's what it all boils down to is that passion and that hunger to be better and to learn. And I think that really represents what this city's about. You see it with the St. Louis Blues and St. Louis City SC. They're these blue collar, hardworking teams. That's the whole philosophy behind both the Blues and City. That the reason that is done is because that represents this city of St. Louis. It's a hardworking town, and they love their sports. They're passionate about it. And so Kojima was just such a gem to have here. He fits so perfectly like a glove. And dude, I could talk about it all day about how bummed I am that he's gone. But yeah, Jacob, how did you react when you saw the news?
So, for those of you who aren't aware, my reaction was actually streamed live. We did a YouTube live watch along for the expansion draft, and leading up to it, seeing their first three picks going, and also prior to that, hearing the news that Kahima's potentially on their board. With their first three picks being actual players coming in to play for San Diego, I got, my hopes up that Kahima was probably not going to get taken. And then with literally their very last pick, because they have 5 picks in the expansion draft, they took Jose Kahima. And it felt like what I can only imagine is equal to a gunshot to the chest when he got picked. Um, I was heartbroken. He was one of my favorite young players coming up. I felt like personally I really related to Kahima on a ball level. Um, my favorite thing about soccer players is their work rate, regardless of how skilled they are or however many goals they can bag in a season. It's how hard you work to recover the ball, and how hard you work specifically on defense, because working hard on offense is easy. Working hard on defense is definitely something you can't teach. And he did all those things to an elite level at such a young age that I really appreciated. So, I mean, DC's getting a baller coming up to a very, very important soccer team who is also in the middle of a rebuild. And they also have Stroud as well. So they're becoming kind of our B team in the league, but Kahima
Yeah,
will be
they
a
got
star
it.
for
Really.
them.
Bartlett and Stroud and
Yeah.
Yep.
Kojima now.
Yeah.
All I'll say is that this is a moment to prepare for, okay? Because
Yeah.
eventually, further down the line, I hate to say it, Roman Berkey's time at St. Louis City is going to come to an end. Will this scarf be still hanging up? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. But players that we love eventually will leave, and that is the business part of soccer that really sucks.
Mm.
I wish Jose nothing but the best over in DC. I'm sure that he'll have a good and strong career. Honestly, I feel that way. I also wouldn't be surprised if he ended up back in St. Louis one day. I just have a feeling.
Yeah.
One of those kinds of players. But moving a little on, we got a little more city news because some on the good front this time though, because Q Watts got engaged. We got to celebrate that. Give our claps
It's
to the
the
boy
season of love. Wow.
in this holiday season. We love that for him, you know.
It's the only
Yeah.
time I've seen a Watts go down on his knee. So
Oh, too good.
Wait a minute.
Well, gents, we ready to get into yeah, that was out of pocket.
We could.
What does that mean?
I'll throw a transition logo right here.
All right. We ready to get into the meat of this episode, boys, because we are a little far out, but
Oh yeah.
we got enough players to create a starting 11, and Olaf Melberg has not produced one yet. So the least we can do is give y'all a starting 11. And
Yes, sir.
I'm all about the guest going first. I would love to have Will take us through your starting 11, what formation you got, what players you got, where. Let's hear it.
I would be honored to. So Melberg loves the 3-4-3, kind of like I prefaced earlier. I think he's going to use it. Or it might be like a 3-5-2 type thing. But I think we're going to see, obviously, Berkey in the net. I think Baumgartel, he was brought in with that voice, right? Let's talked about his voice in the back line. So I think he'll be the center back, and then he'll have Kessler to his right, Nielsen to his left. I think Totland sneaks into the midfield, Leuven, Durkin, and Hartl in there as well. With Toyshirt, Klaus, and then Salio with the current roster. Maybe Opoku slides in if he gets signed. And I think it's going to be really dynamic. I think it'll be fun to watch, fast paced. I am really excited for it.
I do like that lineup a lot. I think the hardest part is trying to figure out how to fit all of our favorite offensive pieces in the space. And yeah, for me, like one of the trickiest parts is like trying to decide where to fit Two-Shirt and trying to decide if I should play him as a right wing or play him just slightly behind Klaus. And I think with City, what we've seen so far is the freedom of players to get around the field and just play
More
where
fluid.
they want to be. So I think, yeah, with this 3-4-3, Two-Shirt's going to tuck more inside. You're going to get a lot more width from Tom's Totland, which will be pretty nice because at times we've seen some weaknesses in his defensive side of the game. So getting him to free up and go more forward, we'll hopefully see less of that. And yeah, this is extremely similar to my lineup. As we were going through and sending our lineups into the group chat earlier, our lineups are so similar. So I'll go ahead and knock mine in as well because mine looks a little crazy, not gonna lie. It is a 4-3-3. It doesn't really look like that just because I moved my players around into a more realistic standing of where they will be
Yours
on
is
the
just
field.
everywhere, bro. Everyone's on the pitch. It's awesome, dude.
Everybody's on the pitch. Starting in the back, we got Roman Berkeley, of course. Roman Berkeley. Berkeley is the my roommate's dog. So lovely. But in the back line, the only difference we had in the back is Baumgartel and Kessler's switch. I have Kessler in the center. I just really love his distribution. I'm not super familiar with Baumgartel's play, so if he could prove himself to be um, a ball mover, then I'll gladly have him in the center. But just like you, I also have Durkin in that left-sided defensive kind of mode, sitting next to Leuven. So basically, I have Durkin playing as my left back, which sounds a little weird, sounds a little scary, but I've been watching a lot of Premier League ball, and this season, the big trend is to put a left back or play a center defensive mid as one of your wing backs.
Yeah.
When you're on offense, you tuck them into the midfield. We've talked about this a lot. But basically, the freedom that gives Durkin the freedom to run pretty much anywhere on the left side of the pitch. As you know, we're not trying to restrict him too much, but the left side of the pitch will stick there. And so that will free up a lot of our players to move a little bit more forward. Of course, Leuven likes to be that deep line playmaker, so we'll let him sit there. We'll have Hartel playing just ahead of him. And then uh, my attack, I've got Two-Shirt, Klaus, and I did go ahead and throw in Opoku. Um, with the possibility of him joining the team, I want to go ahead and throw him in there. And it was very tricky trying to decide between him and Celio. But for the sake of this lineup, I put in Opoku. But I will say something that we haven't seen, something we could play with, is the possibility of Apoku or Celio being able to play on the right wing or the left wing. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't doubt that Celio, I know for a fact Celio can play on that side of the field. He scored one of his best goals from the right side of the field. Um,
True.
so I think we can sort of play with that a little bit more, and we don't have to confine our players to one side. We'll just have to see how it works out with the being right-footed, being left-footed, that sort of thing. But yeah, very similar to Will's lineup, very fluid, a lot of movement, not exactly stationary, but yeah.
Got a Poku out there on a Poku Island.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's in his own world,
I'll
dude.
let him do his thing.
The cool thing about him is like he's not a very defensive player like at all. He's a very high wing player, and I think that can just provide such an outlet, and it provides space
Yes.
for Hartle to experiment. Because we've kind of played Hartle on a left wing, but he tucks inside when he
Mhm.
plays that, suffocates us a little bit at times because his natural
Mm.
position is really a 10. So if we put him at the 10, but give him the space to get out wide, I think so many options open up for us. This lineup, looking like literally looking at the physical spacing of Grayson's lineup, it shows it matches every single player perfectly. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like Totland has the freedom to get forward on the attack. He's very good and effective when he gets into the middle third of the pitch and advancing the ball. And it gives him the freedom to do that without as big a vulnerability on the transition when he loses the ball. Because in the middle third of the pitch, you're not going to be able to progress through every single time. You're going to lose the ball at times,
Yeah.
especially in the MLS where they play like rugby. It's very physical. It's very transition ball. So, and it gives him that space. Leuven has his space where he's not too high in the 10 where he's uncomfortable. He has the pitch and out in front of him. Leuven likes to have the pitch in front of him, almost like wing backs. A lot of wing backs will say, they'll be like, why didn't you play wing mid? Well, it's because they want to have the pitch in front of them. They like to be able to see out. Those players often have the best vision, and I think that's why Leuven likes to be a little further back. This formation gives him the ability to do that physically. Durkin is your workhorse. Like everything about this is so good, and then Toyshirt has the opportunity to use width if the situation presents itself, or he can play the false 9 where he's the most comfortable. And then you have Klaus, who's up there to play the 9, like the true target where he's most comfortable. It's perfect. Like Lutz is cooking. Melberg needs to listen to us and use this lineup clearly because this is the
Please.
play.
Olaf,
And yeah, whether
hit
it's
me up,
Kessler
bro.
or yeah, dude, put Grayson on the tactical staff, bro. We need we need young minds in there. But
It needs a
hey,
bald guy.
Melberg's 47. He's young for a coach.
Hey.
He's pretty young for a coach. So yeah. Anyway, that was all my babbling about your lineup, but I just love it. And you call it Fluid City, which is so fitting because it allows so much fluidity. Our lineup is, oh my gosh, if we do things the right way and we stay healthy, we are going to be a very competitive team. And I'll talk a little more about that a little bit once we go through the other 11s about like what I think is going to go on this season. But man, we're going to be competitive. I love this lineup so much. So it's great.
Feeling hot, feeling hot.
Jacob, you want to follow that up or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll do my best to follow up our guest's favorite lineup.
Hey, I did say he'd probably use the 3-5-2 as well, and I think a 4-4-2 is very possible, especially in defensive situations. You know, you're up 3 goals, you want to rest your strikers a little bit. You pull them off. You move, Totland back to the right back. You have so many options because we have great depth. We didn't have this previously. We can just move things around now. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Good problems. Good problems.
I went with a more putting people exactly where they like to play soccer sort of lineup. This one's a 3-4-1-2 with the same Berkey and backline of Kessler in the middle, Baumgartel out, and Nielsen out on the sides. And then I've got Alm at right mid because I think with a full season of Rasmus Alm, he could be absolutely electric. Lowen next to him in the deep lying playmaker, Durkin next to him as that more center defensive mid, doing a lot more covering of the Edu's ass than he did last season. And then Celio out on the left side, Hartle in the true number 10, and then Klaus and Toyshirt up top with the ability. Like I didn't go through and move my guys around, but this also feels like a very fluid lineup for me. Granted, in the 4 across the middle, there isn't technically another defender of like a Totland or a Giannis Horn playing one of those outside mid positions, but similar to Grayson, Durkin could drop deep if need be. Alm, he's got the pace to be a nuisance out on the right back side, but not necessarily the greatest defense. And then the link up play between Hartle, Toyshirt, and Klaus, as well as Leuven coming in for a long shot every now and then, definitely gives me hope going forward, as well as Celio swinging in crosses, Alm swinging in crosses. I like my lineup. I doubt it is our guest's favorite, but I think it is tried and true and very solid. So, yeah.
First off, right off the back, I need to say that a massively underrated part of Celio Pompeii's game is his defensive work rate. And I think playing Celio in this role would be super beneficial. Something we saw with Celio in the beginning of the second season was our high press was just doing great work with Pompeu, winning the ball back super high, laying it off to Klaus and whatnot. Just he got 3 assists and 3 goals in that first, span of games because of that, because of his defensive work rate, ability to press defenders when they're most uncomfortable, which that being on the ball. So I'm definitely confident in Celio's ability to play that more left wing back position, but making sure we're not holding him back too much because he's going to be fire. Definitely a little bit more question mark around Alm. Yeah, just because we haven't gotten to see, I would say, the best of Alm. I will say we've seen some crazy highlights from him though, like some
His
goals from this
vision.
season.
Good nutmegs
His
too.
dude, one of his passes, I'm thinking of
The
I'm
one
trying to remember which
Klaus
game. Yes, one of Klaus's
against
goals.
Casey. I know exactly
Yes.
what ball.
Oh
That
my
ball was
God.
Yeah, the
disgusting.
early
It lives in
cross.
my brain
Yes.
rent free.
Yeah.
That pass was disgusting.
So if
My
we can
favorite
see that
Alm play,
all
he
the
didn't
time.
even touch the ball. He just let it dummy right past him for an easy tap in.
For
That
Toy Shirt,
is
right?
my favorite Alm play.
Or it was Hartle?
Yeah.
Was it Toy Shirt? I think it was
One of our new German boys,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, something that I'm going to move away from in my 11 is Mr. Celio Pompeu, and that is not a diss at him at all. I just feel like we might have acquired some better quality over the summer. So I'm going to run through my back 5. Berkey in net, obviously the captain.
I'm sorry.
Thomas
Not the Berkey.
Totland at right back. I think Well, I should also mention I'm running a 4-2-3-1. It's more like a 4-2-2-2 because I rate the back four. I am, I guess, more tactically simple-minded tactically, but I think the back four is the most effective way to arrange your defense. And I believe that next season, especially, we're going to have the balance to maintain that back four. So I got Thomas Totland at right back, Henry Kessler, and a full season of healthy Joachim Nielsen, please. He had root canal surgery for a reason. I'm expecting around 30 games out of him next year. And I want Giannis Horn to be our starting left back just because I think that Jay Reed brings that spark plug and quality off the bench that will just be so valuable against really good teams. Like I have in mind Inter Miami because they just have that kind of quality.
Mm.
In the midfield, I have Chris Durkin and Edu Lovin, with Durkin sitting just a little bit below Edu. And now this all hinges on Chris Durkin being able to maintain his defensive responsibility. I think that he will be able to. I believe that he will mature into that role. He's just getting his feet under him in that position. I think he'll do it next year and be the perfect complement to Edu Lovin. A little, not necessarily out wide, but not in the center either. I have Marcel Hartel on the left side. I put him on the right on accident, and then Seti Toikert on the right side. I think that having our two new German signings on the field at the same time is going to be imperative next season. They have already demonstrated their quality as attackers in the MLS. I'm so glad they're on St. Louis City because they would be nasty opponents. And I want the strike partnership of Simon Betcher and Joao Klaus. I love the different qualities that they offer on the field. I have been a big advocate for a two-striker formation at St. Louis City pretty much since the jump, and it has just never worked out. So I don't really have any evidence to say this will work out the best. I just want Betcher and Klaus on the field at the same time. I think that they are going to be two of our most productive attackers next season, and I want them in front of net. Notably, I did leave out Celio. I will acknowledge this real quick because, and Grayson, you mentioned this earlier that one of his qualities is his defensive work rate. Personally, I didn't see that as much last season, and I'm okay with that just because he is a winger. So I do love seeing him higher up the field in that attacking third more often than not. But that is my lineup, my 11 for next season.
Yeah, I think for Celio, I think his best defensive efforts are more so on the press
Mhm.
versus like, one-on-one situations or defending the tactics. And so I agree with Ethan that I don't think he's as defensively reliable as some other options, but I do think that he is definitely really effective on the press, and that fits our game plan a lot. We're a pretty high press team, so I think that could be effective. And I also wanted to just say one thing on Betcher, because whether we like it or not, whether he's playing good at first or not, let me make one thing very clear to City fans across this great state of Missouri and all abroad, is that we're going to be seeing a lot of Simon Betcher this year. We
Oh
have
yeah.
6 months to trial him and decide whether or not we want to spend a lot of money to buy the guy. So we need to play him and make sure we know, is this a route we want to explore? Is this a route that we want to, send him back over to where he came from? Or do we want to permanently get him on our roster? And it's not like he would be a very, very small contract. We have to think about the cap too. If we sign a Poku, his contract will probably be in the ballpark of 600,000 a year, just below a TAM player. That makes him like our sixth most, or what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He'd be our ninth most expensive player, right? So if we add Betcher, as a full-time contract versus a loan, it's going to be a lot more than 138,000, which is what he's making currently on the loan. It's probably going to be more than that. And so I think that we're going to see a lot more of him, whether we like it or not, at least at first, to decide if this is a good option. So I think the Klaus Betcher combination is not far-fetched at all, and I think it's almost inherently likely that we're going to see this, a lot. Whether it's by means of a substitution coming in that changes the formation up to a dual striker, or we see this coming off the rip in the starting 11. So I think that's a pretty insightful point there.
I'm
Well, thank
definitely
you, Mr. V.
I'm very high up on Mr. Simon Betcher after the whole "Is Simon Betcher a fraud?"
That was ringing in my head while I was
The
saying that whole thing.
saga
Is
has
Simon
Is
Betcher
concluded.
a fraud? He's
Listen,
not a fraud. He
Not at
delivered.
all.
He did very
Jacob
well. I hope
Jacob
he
did the sequel.
consistently does it this year too.
And I think we can see that from him. I think Betcher's kind of got that I don't know. He's got that special thing where the ball just falls in the right spot, you know? It's some sort of player trait you can get in FIFA. Maybe it's the
Yeah,
I'm picturing
it's
like
Like a
called
ball
a
magnet.
little four-leaf
luck.
clover,
Yeah.
and the
I
ball
think he
just
reminds
fall
me
where
of
you
Nico
need it.
Gioacchini, honestly.
I see that.
Yeah,
I
he
don't know if that's
does.
maybe a bad take, but he kind of in some ways reminds me of Gioacchini. The one goal he scored remind me. Do you guys remember that one Gioacchini goal where the ball's coming across like the top of the box and Gioacchini just like guides it with his left foot and goes like
Mm,
up over his
the
head
flick,
to the
Yep.
far
the flick.
post?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Betcher had a goal that was sort of similar to that from a decent distance. That was kind of like a finesse volley. It wasn't like a full strike. It
Mm.
was more of like a placement volley and also his play style. But like there's I don't know, he just reminds me of Gioacchini in a couple of ways. And so I would love to see him earn that paycheck. I think that would be really good for the team. And you know, like I said, the depth, losing him on the bench definitely takes a big chunk. Then at that point, you know, looking at depth wise at the striker position, you have Thoresen who can play there. And we no longer have Kojima who can play there. Then at that point, maybe we're seeing Glover with the senior roster
Mm.
prematurely because he's not really ready for that yet. And, you know, that's not a situation we
McSorley.
exactly want to be in. Oh yeah, and also McSorley, and that could be a good opportunity. So maybe I'm kind of wrong on that because that could be a cool chance for McSorley to come in and mix score some goals. So
Well, I'm going to take this chance as a good segue, right? Because we're talking about Simon Betcher and what he might get up to next season. And well, first of all, I think we want to get into some player predictions for next year. All right. We want to predict goals, assists, clean sheets, perhaps. But I think the first prediction, right? Because it's an unknown, is will we sign Simon Betcher?
oh,
It seems like yes, right? It
going
has to be
spicy.
yes, right?
I mean, I want to. Will we? The production and level of play is up for debate going forward.
I'd
But
say if he can match or even improve upon what he showed us in the end of last season, he gets the bag. He came in, he scored some goals, did exactly what he was asked to do. Um, and to me, I would have signed him at the end of last season. So, for me, if he keeps on doing the same, then for me, it's a matter of how many. Like, if he can score 5 goals, the halfway point of the season.
It's more than Klaus scored this year, I believe.
I think
Yes.
Klaus had exactly 5 also.
So
Yeah.
If you can score 5 in half a season, you're good.
I
Klaus
think
also
I'd
was
like.
tied for the most goals. That was such a weird thing with us having, 22 unique goal
22
scorers in
different,
a
yeah,
MLS season,
crazy.
setting that
Yeah.
record. And that's just very, very night era cut and dry proof of us utilizing depth, being very injured, having a lot of young guys getting opportunities, which is a cool thing. But it shows a struggling and a rebuilding team, and that was reflected in our record. Even though with the roster on paper, it really shouldn't have been that way. We should have at least been a playoff team with the roster, but health really killed us, and so yeah, I hope we can really stay healthy this year.
I think if I'm gonna re-sign Betcher, I'd want to see like 7+ goals by the halfway mark. I think 5 is a little too low for him. 7 goals and like 3 assists, 10 total goal contributions by the halfway point.
I think I want to see him have I don't know exactly what kind of minutes he's going to get, so I don't necessarily want to say goals and assists, but I think I want to say goal contributions per 90. I think if he can sit above 0.75 goals plus assists per 90, I think he's worth signing because we have the rights to sign him. And I think if we signed him, it would be on the same contract unless we offered him a bigger number. And so we could get him for at least 1 year, I think, or through the end of the year at 138,000 before we'd have to renegotiate his contract. So I think if he's doing just okay, I think we still sign him for through the end of the year, give him through the end of 2025 to prove himself. And then in the offseason next year, we can renegotiate that contract on much better terms for him if he proves that that's the kind of money he should be getting. But ideally, he proves that early on, and let's hands him a blank check and says, "Go to town, kid. Get yourself something nice. Welcome to St. Louis." So,
Could be
um,
lovely.
Well,
yeah.
we have one other player also on loan as well. Giannis Horn, still not permanently a St. Louis City player. And I feel like it's much easier to sit on the fence about Giannis Horn, but I'm feeling like we should re-sign him because we haven't had too much consistency in the left back position. And I think that's what he offers, whether or not is to provide Jay Reed the time to develop as an MLS left back. Maybe it is, or maybe it's to, you know, uh, bring him in and turn him for a profit. That's what Lutz wants to do. But for now, I think Giannis Horn is a great left back for St. Louis City.
Hmm. I think he can double as a center back as well. I don't think we've seen that really too much. I think we could see that this year, especially if we're using a three-back formation. He could fill in, um, and then um, especially with his experience, he's played with a lot of these guys before. So I think that's a big thing, especially when it comes to like defenders. It's hard to put like a a number, like a numerical value on what they need to do to stay here. Um, for me, it's gonna be the eye test for Horn. I'm gonna have to watch him play. The same thing with Betcher. I would have signed him at the end of last season. With Horn, I watched him play. I probably would have signed him. He's solid. I want to see more. But that's just because I think our defense was really weak last season. Um, it's definitely starting to strengthen up at the end there, but we were still leaking goals. So, I want to see improvement, but I wouldn't be mad if we signed Giannis as well.
I think that Giannis is a good player. I want to see more from him.
Mm,
I think a large part of whether or not we sign him regards how does he fit into the system this year. Does his game kind of match what Melberg wants? Because that's a cool thing about loan players is like, we can try it out, but even if they're a great player, but their game doesn't match, we can give them back and sign somebody else in the summer
True.
window.
mm,
So we definitely have options. But speaking of options, I want to talk about one thing because I know you just mentioned the left back position, and that's been our Achilles heel. It's really been our Achilles heel in City's history. You think about Selmier Pedro, the first ever signing in City history, $325,000, still on the books.
Never played
Um,
for us.
has not touched the pitch for the senior roster, I don't think, or maybe he did once or twice in 2023 at the start, but he hasn't been doing that for us. He's eating an international slot. Then you think about us getting Marcanic. He's on fire. We pull him from the Rapids, who were terrible in 2023. He was on fire at the end of 2023. Then he sucked in 2024. Ship him off. Now we have Jay Reed, young guy, comes up. He's doing well, but he has a lot of issues in his game that he's getting better at. So I hope he can surprise us in the future. Then we get Giannis Horn. The list kind of there's a lot of guys. But the cool thing now is because we have guys like Akil Watson, Kyle Hebert, who can fill those gaps when needed, we can experiment with guys like Giannis Horn and Bombshell. I think we might experiment with Selmier Pedro because we've got a year left on his contract. He's been back with the squad. He's been playing with City too, and quite
mm.
frankly, he's been very quality with City too, from what I hear. I only
Interesting.
watched him play once, and he put in a decent shift in that game. But I think if he can be consistent on a match to match basis, he could definitely get minutes. It doesn't hurt to at least let him see the pitch once or twice, and just see how he fares in the MLS. We're paying over $300,000 for the guy every single year. He's, 325,000. He's our 10th highest paid player on the team.
Crazy.
Hasn't seen the field in 2 years. So
Brutal.
I think we could take a chance on that. That's something that's not really been talked about a lot. That I think could be a really, really interesting discussion topic in 2025. So definitely something to look out for. So yeah, sorry, not to interrupt the whole flow of the conversation, but I wanted to throw that
No,
tidbit in
that's
because I
very
think that could be
important.
really
We
cool.
are on officially, we are on Samir Pedro watch.
Yeah.
If he gets mentioned, we will let you know about it. So, yes.
Well,
Uh,
I want to kind of pivot that into some predictions for the season, some player predictions, because we've talked a little bit about the defense, the leaking defense. And so I think it's a good number to predict is the amount of clean sheets that we'll have next season.
mm,
All right. I'll provide a little bit of context. Last season,
please, please.
7 clean sheets for Roman Berkey, none for Ben
Not
Lund.
enough.
That is a skeet amount of clean sheets, unfortunately, not a high enough number for a quality team. Will, what is your metric? Where do you think we need to be at for next season?
In terms of numbers of clean sheets in a 34, match season,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you're winning, at least 15 matches. Maybe that's a lot to ask, but I'm hoping that with this roster we can put up 15 wins at the very least. And if you're winning at least 15 games, you're not expecting them all to be clean sheets, but I'm hoping that we can get closer towards the 10 to 12 range of clean sheets. I think we're going to have less draws this year. Hopefully that was a big plague for us. Tied for most in the league with the Red Bulls, 14 draws, and unless you're getting a lot of wins, is not going to cut it. You got to close those games out. We dropped over 20 points from leading positions in 2024, 2020. Yeah, no, 2024, which is just unacceptable. I don't even know what year it is anymore, but it's just unacceptable. So we need to be better. And I think 7 clean sheets is a low number. I 100% agree with you guys, but I think that's not entirely on Berkey or Lunt.
Mm.
I think it's a massive reflection on how undisciplined our back line was. We had a lot of issues. We also didn't run the same back line more than like 2 times all year. We had like 25 or something like that
Yeah,
unique back
22 different
lines.
combos.
22, yeah, whatever it was. It's insane. It's uncharacteristic of a good team that's competitive. And so I think that's going to be a really big selling point is can we get better coaching in the defensive third of the pitch? Can we get more consistent performances out of guys that maybe have to jump in and play a role like Jay Reed, who is consistent on the attacking side, I will say, but very inconsistent on the defensive side. And can we also see Roman Berkey step up in big moments like we did, especially in 2023? He did it in 2024, not quite as much, but he didn't have as many chances because he was left out to dry so many times. So I'm really looking forward to all of those things combining, getting us to like around 12 clean sheets, 10 to 12. I'd be happy. I'd be okay with that as long as we're getting a lot of points.
I think 12 is a solid number to look at. Over under 12 clean sheets on a season puts us in a lot better fighting chance for a playoff spot, and then the rest is up to the offense flowing.
Yeah, I will provide a little bit more context. In the MLS this season, excluding playoffs, the high was 13, shared by 2 clubs, Charlotte and LAFC. Um, so of course, Charlotte is definitely a lot lower in quality compared to LAFC, but also talking about our now crowned MLS Cup champions. They only kept 9 clean sheets, and that's with 2 different goalkeepers. Um, so we're not too far off the champs. I don't think, clean sheets are extremely important. That's something that I've been harping on our defense so many times. I was saying I want a 1-0 win. I don't
Yep.
care how many goals we score as long as they don't score any, and we score more than 1. I want to win. Like, come on now. But yeah, definitely just we need more of a lockdown defense. That was so painful last season to watch, but I am excited for this year. We got some more depth. Hopefully we have healthier players. We'll get to see Nilsson. It's more of an Iron Man this year. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. And also, if we do play a four-man defense, we'll have Baumgartel coming off the bench. So we'll have a lot of depth there. We still have Hebert right now. We still have Yarrow, so definitely have a lot of depth there. And yeah, like
Yeah.
like you said, Berkey. not the best year. Of course, we saw a couple uncharacteristic mistakes, bad passing, a bobbled ball into the feet of a striker or something. But
A
you
Jay
know,
Reed rocket own goal.
yeah, it's been a handful of mistakes this season. So I think a clean sheet. I'm gonna say 10. I'll be happy with 10. I don't I don't need that many clean sheets as long as we're a winning team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can get
Grayson,
behind that.
I'll predict the same number because I think it's pretty reasonable. Will, you mentioned that point earlier of how many drop points we had from winning positions this season. We add a few more clean sheets and that number raises enough to probably get us into the playoffs or at least make that push last just a little bit longer. Another big piece of that you mentioned again is consistency. I would love to at the very whatever formation Melberg rolls out, whatever players it is, I would love to see them consistently getting that time together. I completely agree with that. But yeah, my number's going to be at 10. Let's hope for the best.
That's a good call.
Let's go for the team leader in assists because I think we have
Mm,
a few options in this
yeah.
category, especially based on last season's performances. I'm going to kick us off this time because I believe it's going to be Marcel Hartel. I, I'm going to put him. I know that he is very much a goal scoring player, but I think a quality that we overlook from time to time is his vision. So I'm going to put him at 8 assists because
Mm.
no. I'm going to put him at 10 because I also think he'll be next year's MVP and the MLS MVP needs to have a lot of goal contributions. So 10
Bold
assists for
statement.
Hartzell. Bring
I
it.
love it
Not
though.
the
I
first time
absolutely
that's
love it.
happened on this podcast.
I'm also stealing that from Jacob a little bit. I believe he's the first one to say that. So I do want to give his credit.
No, I was just on the bold statements coming from the City Boys podcast. That is our bread and butter over here.
Yep, yep.
So I'm going to say Hartel leads the team next season with 10 assists.
Which
Um,
is the highest amount of assists we've had from a team leader, which was Leuven in first season. He had 10 assists. So
I'm gonna
that's a good benchmark.
go a different direction just because I have Hartle as my leading goal scorer. But I've got Cedric Toyshirt with the team leader in assists on 9.
Okay.
Hmm.
Definitely, yeah, one to play right behind Klaus. Definitely gonna set up some goals. I'm of the opinion that he will score more than he assists.
Hmm.
And I think Klaus will actually end up with more assists than Tuchel, but
Wow.
he will not be my number one. I think this man right here might be picking him as his number one. But I am gonna say it's gonna be Edu Leuven. Again, come on. 10 assists in
It's a
his
good
first
pick.
season. I think he got 6 assists. Ah, Jesus Christ. 6 assists in his second season. Too many damn S's in a
Yeah.
row. But this season, Leuven is going to be back in form. He had a tough year last year, and I think he's going to be better than his first season. He's going to produce his best output yet. Edu Leuven has figured out his quarterback position. He's going to be throwing touchdowns left and right. His assist number, he's going to put up over 15 assists this year.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Please. Please.
I would literally love that.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna come out of nowhere. I'm gonna go with one that a lot of City fans are gonna disagree with. This is a player that's caught a lot of flack, and honestly, a lot of it's deserved. But at the end of the day, when you have a designated player in Joao Klaus, who's a big man up top. He's extremely strong in the box. He's your guy that you're distributing to when Hartle and Leuven get the ball. Where are they looking? They're looking to their number 9. What's he doing? He's laying it off for Toyshirt, for Hartle, for Leuven, for Celio, for Opoku, for Durkin, whoever it may be.
Anyone
Here's
else?
here's the beautiful thing. On corner kicks, set pieces, we can send a center back to the box and still have 2 trees standing at midfield doing nothing, twiddling their thumbs. That's something we've never had before. So we can,
True.
we have so much comfort in the attack. I think Klaus is going to be a focal point. I think he's going to get assists on set pieces. I think they're going to target him to send it back across the box on the header. and then guys like maybe Baumgartel are gonna step in and get the final touch. I think he's going to distribute to Toyshirt a lot. I think Salio, if he ends up being the number one left winger, is going to get a lot of assists this year, and probably net a handful of goals as well. But I've got Joao Klaus clocking in at a whopping 12 assists this year.
I
I think
like
he's going
that.
to be the highest assisting player on City. I think
Really.
excuse me. I think Leuven and Hartle are going to clock in pretty close. And whoever the dominant left winger is probably going to clock in a lot of assists as well, be it Salio or Opoku, or even if it's Hartle out wide, or if it's Vasilev, whoever it may be, that's getting the most consistent minutes out there. I think they're going to get a lot of assists too. I think Klaus is going to have a year that's going to win the hearts of City fans back.
Please.
I think he's due for it.
I love that.
He's going to be confident. Leuven is going to be back, and hopefully focused. God forbid any more issues with Ilona were to happen. Obviously, we would not want that. But hopefully, she's doing a lot better, and he's more focused on the passion. He talked about in a couple of interviews about how she just wants him to play the game. And so I think this year could be a really therapeutic thing for him. And I think that could lead to a lot of success on the pitch, and a lot of confidence of the guys around him. He's like the father of the pitch for City. And I think that's really going to translate into things, into a lot of success. I think like those things are direct contributors, in my opinion, towards Joao Klaus being a very big assist guy this year. So might be out of left field. So I might not be a popular opinion, and I could be horribly wrong.
Every City fan on
Klaus
Facebook is disagreeing with you loudly right
every
now.
single one.
I have
is
never seen a
punching their
nice word
screen.
about him on about Joao Klaus on Facebook, but I love that take. I love it. I think that fits his ability on the field well, and I think that he would love to be that player for us as well.
Oh,
Klaus, if you're watching this, we need presents from Santa this year. I believe in you. Not only do I believe in you, because whether I believe in you, quite frankly, doesn't matter. I'm confident that you're going to deliver. I don't have a lot of doubt in Joao Klaus. I think I would be much more surprised if he disappoints us than if he succeeds this year. And I think a lot of City fans are going to be pleasantly surprised with his performance this year.
Same. And talking about our talisman's performances, I think is a pretty good lead into the team leader in goals for next season. This is going to be, I feel like, a very controversial stance, or maybe not controversial, but there's a wide range of answers here. And Jacob, I don't think you've started us off. Let's hear you first.
Well, looking at what took place this past season, so I want Hartle to get the MVP, and I have him as my team leader in goals. So there's some shithousery that took place with the MVP vote, in my opinion. But Leo Messi ended the season with 20 goals and 16 assists. But the leading goal scorer for the league was Christian Benteke on 23. So I'm going to put Marcel Hartel firmly in there at 21 goals on the season.
That's big time.
That's a big
That is
tally.
big time.
That's a
Listen,
great
you're not
tally.
far off with saying that Marcel Hartle is quality enough to make an MVP run in MLS in 2025. He's a class player. He showed that very quickly in a disorganized team with a disorganized roster with an interim head coach and a bunch of new players who aren't dove into the system yet. And I think you're not off base at all. I think this is an unexpected take.
I know.
I think he was snubbed for newcomer of the year, like by far. Not
to mention,
really
he was playing with a broken toe. He had a broken toe for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, and he was still not even training on a consistent basis and was still able to produce those kinds of performances. So a fully healthy Hartel is going to be just different gravy.
I will say it was only one season ago where Marcel Hartel was earning MVP honors in Bundesliga 2 with FC St. Pauli, where he produced 21 goals and 14 assists in 37 games. I mean, that was one season ago, right before he joined us at STL City.
I got a feeling Jacob knew that.
But to be totally honest, I didn't. But I'm a
That's
fucking
crazy.
king.
Hey,
This guy knows ball, bro. He knows
it
ball.
it could very well happen again. I'm gonna say that our number one leading scorer for next season is gonna be Two Shirt, the Choo Choo Train. Um, from what I saw out of him in his initial start with City was just clinical. I spewed a lot of just hate, absurd hate this season. I said it looks like sometimes he doesn't know if he knows how to play soccer. You know,
You
you could
also said Indy was mid.
Just crazy talk,
yes, I
brother.
did
He
say
said
that.
Indy was
Yes,
mean.
mid.
Mid.
I called him
Mid.
mid. I
Oh,
called him.
mid.
I called him mid.
I mean, that's more sensible than Toysher doesn't know how to play soccer.
I'm just saying sometimes he looks, when he's training through the other team, just bombing downfield, just running. It's kind of the same thing when you see like a football player, sub into a soccer team. They're just a tank on the field. But
That's a fair comp.
but I will say Tuchert does have that touch, and he's also got the Simon Betcher lucky player trait. The ball falls to him. And I think it's going to keep falling in the right spot, and he's going to put it in the back of the net over and over and over again. I think Tuchert ends with 15 plus goals. I think 15 is a good spot. As we've seen in the best City season yet, we had three people tied for our top scorer with 10 goals, being Giacchini, being João Klaus, and that one other guy, Adeniran. So yeah, we had 10 goals for three people. City is a team that likes to spread the love. So I just like City View said, I'm hoping there will be a nice pack sitting around 15 goals, 10 to 15 goals range. I'm seeing Betcher there. I'm seeing Hartzell there. I'm seeing Tuchert there, and I'm seeing Opoku there as well.
Very bold. Very bold.
Hey, and Celio too. What am I kidding?
I'm not gonna lie, that logic really tracks for me with sharing the love, Grayson. As much as I would love to see one of our marquee players bang in 20 goals in a season, I just don't know if I see that just yet, just because we have so much quality spread across there.
Mm.
So as far as team leader in goals, I'm actually also going to vote for Toykert just because in 10 games, man had 5 goals and 4 assists. He is a magnet for goal contributions. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say he gets 16 just to put one above the 15 mark. But
Whatever.
if we have
Had to one up you.
15, yeah. But if we have two 15 plus goal scorers on the team this season, I think that I would prefer that to 22 different unique goal scorers on the team this year. Is like 3 that we know they're scoring almost every game. So I'm going to go for Toykert for my team leader in goals this season. I'm going to put him on 16.
I like that.
Some hot takes. Actually, maybe
Take.
not screaming hot, but I think they're going to be popular. I think that we are all pretty reasonable and well-rounded ball knowers.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I agree with that one.
Grayson sometimes tries to prove us wrong, but despite his best efforts,
Whatever.
he gets by, I think.
Hot takes are only hot until they hit. You know what I'm saying?
That's accurate. And then all of a sudden you're a genius.
I'm just trying to get ahead of the game.
One will be right. All right. I'm going to say that.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon as well, with Toy Shirt.
Oh
And
my
that's not
God.
that's not anything crazy. I think it's pretty expected. I think Klaus is going to get a lot of assists. He's going to net some goals. Salio is going to net some goals. If Opoku's on the roster, Hartle, Leuven's probably going to be the number one guy from the spot. It might end up being Hartle, but Leuven will probably get some set piece opportunities as well. I really think that we're going to have a pretty well-rounded scoring group this year. In the attacking third. I think Betcher's going to get a lot too. We've got great guys off the bench who can score goals. Rasmus Alm, Totland's probably going to net a couple this year. Our center backs in the box on set pieces. We've got
Indy's
a
gonna
lot
hit
of
a
guys who
couple
can score
curlers,
goals.
man.
Indy is going to be. I think he's going to be like low key slept on this year. He's going to be forgotten about, but then he'll remind you that he's there
Like a
with one
12th
good shot.
man kind of guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'm actually going to go a little on the lower end. I think we're going to have a pretty well-rounded scoring group this year. So I'm actually going to go with 13, with Toyshirt being the leading goal scorer this year. But I think we're going to
Oh.
have guys like Klaus and like Hartle and Leuven getting a lot of assists, and I think it's going to be a pretty um well-rounded group of goal scorers this year. I think we're going to have a lot of good talent. It really all comes down to, can we execute things tactically, and can we get consistent high level performances? Like, can we get the best out of our players individually? Melberg's got his task out for him. Lutz has laid the picture out, and he's made all the lines, and now Melberg's just kind of got to color in the shapes. You know what I mean? He's got to color in all the shapes, and I think he's gonna do it. And I think we're gonna get a big red city logo all over MLS this year. I think we're gonna be a big talk of the town in Major League Soccer.
Will, you could not be setting me up better here for the segues, because speaking of big red city logos, St. Louis City are going to be getting a brand new home kit next year. And there's been a little bit of talk about potentially a new crest. And can't lie, I would love to see the City Boys logo on the city as the badge or on the kit somewhere. I
We'll
think
take the
we
kid
might get
sponsor
there.
someday.
But I would just love to know what y'all want to see on next season's home kit, because we have high expectations from the city design team. I know that. I know city red is one of the most unique colors in the MLS. But other than that, we got pretty much no idea where this kit is gonna go. No, nothing. So what do y'all need from this kit? What do you need to see? Will, let's hear it from you first.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm dying to hear what Jacob thinks, because if I remember correctly, you had some pretty cool ideas the last time we talked about like a retro jersey. And so I'm curious what you think, but I will say a lot of fans are gonna want a Navy kit. And I'm gonna say I love the idea of a Navy kit, but not yet. Hear me out. We are in our third year of existence. Our whole thing is city red, this pink red,
Yep.
bright in your face. It's everything. It's our logo. It's all over our stadium. It's our primary color. I think having a navy home kit would be amazing, and it could look so cool, and it could just be so clean. But you need to have that city red in your branding while you're still building your fan base around the city. You need to be easily recognizable.
Mm.
I think the city red needs to be the primary color again for this next
Mm.
home kit. And then the third home kit we ever get, 2 years down the line, out in this time in 2026, it'll be announced for the 2027 season. That kit, I would love to see that one be a Navy kit. But for this year, I want to see another city red. I want to see if we can incorporate maybe some white or black into it, and see what we can do from there. I don't have a ton of ideas on the specifics, but I think incorporating the arch is a necessity. And I'm really curious to see what you guys think. There's a lot of ideas that have circulated, with the rivers and the arch. Obviously, that's kind of like what our crest is, is the Missouri and the Mississippi and the Gateway Arch. So I'm really curious what kind of ideas you have. And Jacob, I gotta say, I'll shut up now because I'm dying to hear what you're thinking here.
Okay, all
Give
right.
this man the mic.
So before you started talking, I had no ideas. Totally honest. I hadn't really put much thought into it. But I've been thinking, and this kind of touches on our last episode of Kit Clash when Ethan brought out the Iceland kit. If you have it, it would be a
Actually
great
do have that
reference. Be a great
available.
Literally
reference.
in
Okay.
arm's range.
Okay. So instead of it being white, right, we've got the red that then transitions to the sleeves of being that navy with the yellow accents around the sleeves and the neck of the jersey. And then do like some sort of onus on the like back of the neck, how we've seen a lot of the other. I'm sorry, buddy. My dog is in my face. But a lot of the other MLS clubs have given like shout outs to their city. So on the back, right where the Iceland flag is, we do like some sort of arch incorporation.
Interesting. That could be cool.
Those are my ideas. Hire me for big idea guy at St. Louis City design team.
All right, all right. I would like to take over here because I am a hater. I'm gonna shoot down the Navy kit. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I don't want to be the Revolution. I don't want to be Dallas. I think I think we got to stick to the city red. I think it's iconic. I don't hate the incorporation of Navy. I think that shirt right there is clean, Mr. Views. Um,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
and I like that. I like that idea of using the Navy as kind of a blocking kind of way to do it, to incorporate it into the kit, or maybe have Navy shorts as like a secondary part of the kit. You know, we have red jersey, blue socks, blue shorts, or um, blue shorts, red socks, back to the red on bottom. But either way, I wanted to speculate a little bit and throw out some additions to this kit that could be fun. So hear me out. Let's start off with this addition to a kit. Do you think City could pull off some collared kits?
I
Thoughts?
am I like
Thoughts?
collared kits. I do, but they have to be done correctly or they look
Right.
really, really stupid. And since we are St. Louis Germans SC, I think referencing the German
Bavaria.
national kit is probably a good move. So I'm gonna look that up.
Okay.
Um, I just typed kilt instead of kit last. Let's see. I don't think they have any collared kits.
Okay.
Since we have a bunch of Germans, so maybe not on the collared front, but I'm not opposed to it. In fact, that's not I hadn't really considered that. That's a really interesting
Yeah.
idea.
I think for me, something that I've been itching to see with a St. Louis City kit, um, that I will shout out to the St. Louligans with their lovely kit I have hiding
Mm.
in the back of my video here, is a unique collar on the St. Louis City kits. I'm a sucker for a unique collar. I think some teams that have done it really well over the past couple of seasons that we could use for inspiration specifically would be Liverpool. I think Liverpool's kits over the last couple of years have been super clean. Even though I am a hater, they have red kits and specifically their collars over the past couple of seasons have been very nice.
See what you mean.
And one of my favorite iterations of the collar is kind of what St. Louligans has going on here, where it's more of a pinstriped collar, where it's a white collar with a stripe of red cutting through the middle. I think it's a very clean look. It adds, a little bit of a color pop around the edges of the kit. So I'm a big fan of a big white collar on this red city kit. Some nice navy accents, possibly a new logo on there. But for me, I don't want to stray too far away from that city red. I will say, I don't picture the river getting used in this season's home kit because it was so heavily
Yeah.
influenced in the Confluence kit. I think
That's a very good point.
I think if anything, we might lean into the more industrial side of St. Louis City for this home kit. So we'll see. We'll see.
I like where your head's at, Gray. I like it. And like Will, I agree that the arch has to remain not the main focus of it, but it should be a component of the jersey. I love that St. Louis City's inaugural home kit has a very unique pattern on the front. I feel like the MLS and Adidas kits specifically kind of all kits fall into that pattern downfall that just looks generic and basic. And St. Louis City has not been a victim of that one time. This is maybe a little generic. Our first away jerseys maybe a little generic, but even still, I like the pinstripes. So as long as we keep a unique pattern, the arch component, and that city red, I will be satisfied. I would not hate a collar, honestly, Grayson. Honestly, if we went like a city red inspired Miami jersey,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be opposed to that. I'd honestly kind of like to see the St. Louis City crest in the middle of a jersey. So
I
even though I'm
do.
not the biggest fan of that.
I do like a good central crest, and we have seen Adidas start to experiment with that in the league with Miami. So I really would be surprised if they would throw that at St. Louis, but if they got some designers who are feeling experimental, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad about it. But I will, real quick, show some love to that St. Louis City original away kit. I love the pinstripes. I think it was a really good. I felt like it was a call to St. Louis City's baseball history, kind of, is what I got with that kit. Um, so I loved it personally.
Sure. I'll go for it, Gray. Why not? Yeah,
Sometimes
go Cards.
simple's okay, in my opinion. I think it's a very simple jersey, but
Mm.
it's a good jersey. It looks nice, you know. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not flashy, obviously, but like it's not really supposed to be all that flashy for an
Yeah,
away kit. So, I don't mind it at all.
I will say
And also,
confluence is an improvement, but
I agree. I agree. And I think you've inspired me with the collar. I'm thinking like, what if we had a city red kit with like a white collar that
mm,
also had some sort of maybe navy or city red also incorporated in the white based collar? That could be interesting.
mm,
But you talked a second ago about the full kit, right? And like, shorts and socks and everything. And if you want to look great, no matter what the home kit is, you got to get yourself the St. Louis City Boys hat right here that I've got on. It is an outstanding piece of headwear.
Oh my
You got to
God.
represent the St. Louis City Boys hat. If you want to get yours, click the link below right now.
What
Let's
Get the
a
St. Louis City
man.
go.
Boys hat. It is
What
so
a
Let's
clean.
go.
man.
City
hey,
Views approved. Oh my God, it's clean.
we didn't
Some
even ask for
lore,
that.
Actually, a lot.
some lore on the hat. It is strictly inspired by Will himself. We gave him a little sneak peek at what we were going to be offering on the store, and he was like, "Why don't you guys have a hat?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. That's a great question. I'm going to
Duh.
make a hat right now." And so, yeah, the hats are completely his brainchild, just my execution. So if you want to look just as good as Will does, go get yourself a city hat.
Hey,
Yeah, sorry. I
lovely
didn't mean to
Christmas
interrupt you, but I
presents.
saw the opportunity for the plug and I had to get you right.
What
It's
a
too clean.
man. What a man. What a pro. What a pro. Well, and I feel like this is a pretty good time. I think we got all our predictions in for the year.
Mm.
We've talked about what kits we're gonna rock next year. Now, Will, you've told we have been waiting in suspense all episode. All right. You have a huge announcement for us, for the people. Let's hear it, brother.
What's up?
Absolutely. So, you guys know I've been doing this about a year and a half now. It's been a lot of fun at City Views. And this might be a sad thing for some people, but I have two announcements coming up about the future of the page.
I'm
And
scared.
so one of them is that some things are going to be going away. But when one door closes, another opens.
Screw.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about a rebrand. I'm talking new
Oh.
logo, new look, some
Very
new styles of
cool.
content, and with that might come some video form content potentially,
Ooh.
mainly in the winter and some in like the off season, but also in the summer months when I've got a little more time on my hands. Potentially this spring if I have the time to do it. A new logo means new opportunity for merch. So I might put out a little bit of merch.
Let's go.
And so,
Ooh.
the whole rebrand deal is going to come with that. But the other major announcement, and this is something that has been requested since I had like 100 followers, and it was, that first group of like 10 people that would DM me all the time, and they still do. I've got a lot of people who are very committed to the community at City Views. It's an incredible thing. And I'm so grateful for each and every single person that tunes into my posts, whether they're just a casual scroller, whether they like, whether they comment, whether they're the people that DM me or share with their friends. I'm grateful for all of you. And that is why I want to be able to give more opportunities for content, because one of the biggest things I get in my DMs all the time is, post about this, post about this, post about this. And I think I can better do that with something like a Patreon. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to
Ooh.
do exactly through Patreon, but the idea is that, I only get 2,200 characters in my famously long Instagram captions. So, on a Patreon, I can push out full length articles over topics that are infinite amount of characters until my city heart runs out of words. I can keep yapping. So, um, you know, I would love to do it. I want to give back, and doing things like that. The money I get from that would allow me to continue devoting more and more time. If I'm making a little bit of money doing it, I can justify taking hours off of work, or whatever it may be, to work towards more content. So, um, we're closing in on 1,500 followers. I think
Oh yeah.
2,000 is probably the
Oh,
milestone where starting a
awesome.
Patreon is a good route for me. So, share the page with your friends if that's something you'd be interested in. I'm really excited for it. I want to give you guys more content, more views, more everything. I used a little bit of that money and be able to go to some more away games in different stadiums I haven't been to and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
And so, I just want to be able to do more for the city family. I want to be there on the road to support the boys. I want to give the people more content. I want to be able to break down finances in more than 2,200 characters, because it's so hard to give fans who, don't do this type of homework because they don't have time to, this information in a simple form, when I only get 2,200 characters in a post.
Yeah.
Shout out my boy St. Louis Citizens for working on some visual content with me, and in helping me be able to express some of that stuff in more characters, because then I get also the slides and all that kind of stuff. So he's been a gem in helping me out. But as I get bigger and as I want to do more and more, as I become more reputable in the community, I want to be able to give the people what they deserve, because I love serving this great city of St. Louis. I live and bleed this city. Everything in this room and my whole house is city. We just finished our basement here, and the whole basement is City, Blues, and Cardinals. It's like St. Louis vomited all over
Yeah.
my house. I love this city. I want to give back. So I think the Patreon is a great way to do that. And I'm also just super excited for the rebrand. No sneak peeks yet, but they'll come. I've got some cool stuff in the works. I'm working with a couple of different potential designers.
Ooh.
Some people that I know very well and have worked with in the past on other projects. So hoping that I can get something really good, an
Yeah.
iconic look for city views, and yeah, that's about it. And I'll also be able to publish, a little more of fun content here and there. Like, I've done a couple of Blues and USMNT posts, maybe a couple, Cardinals or Battlehawks posts in the future. Of course, the teams I'm most educated on are City, the Blues, and the U.S. men's national team. But I also, love the Cardinals and Battlehawks. And,
Oh yeah.
everybody loves sports in this town. So I want to be able to give the people what they want. So if you want to see all those things, help me reach that 2,000 followers mark. And I'm going to keep doing my job, my end of the bargain, get this rebrand taken care of, maybe get a little merch pushed out. A lot of cool stuff coming. So I appreciate everyone who's been with me for the last year and a half. And I really appreciate the City Boys for giving me the opportunity to announce all this cool stuff on their incredible podcast. They're just top class guys, all three of them, Jacob, Ethan, and Grayson. They do great stuff. Their content's come such a long way this year. It's gotten better and better. If you're not watching, I mean, you're watching if you're seeing this clip most likely, but if you're seeing it on an Instagram reel, you need to be tuning into the City Boys podcast if you enjoy this club, because it's just a great place to get your information and spend a little time with the fellas. I mean, these are just fun
Hey.
guys to be around, so.
Get this guy more characters, damn it. Go get this man more characters. What a
Absolutely.
man, Will.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
And
we're
some
so
people have
glad
talked
to.
to me about Twitter too, doing Twitter,
Whatever that
or
is.
Blue Sky, yeah,
Yeah.
or Threads. That type of stuff. It becomes a lot when you're doing multi-platforms, and I've done this already for different things that I've been involved with, social media and sports management stuff that I've done in the past. But it becomes a lot when you're doing multiple platforms. So I would rather be able to reach like whatever the threshold is that Instagram requires to get a broadcast channel, and just use that as my Twitter. So it's all in
Way
one
to do
place.
it.
Everyone gets everything there. There's the link to the Patreon. Everything's on my homepage on Instagram. That's the goal. That's where we're headed. So more stuff's coming. City views. I know I played with you guys with your heartstrings at the start, but it's
You
not
did
going
scare me.
anywhere.
You scared me.
It's only getting bigger and better. I am super excited. I'm honored to be able to do this, like I said. So, but again, thank you guys for letting me announce this on the show, and thank you guys for having me again, man. It's 2 times that I've been on the City Boys
Uh,
podcast. It's been the greatest thing ever, man. It's awesome talking to you guys.
Friend
These guys know
of the
ball.
program.
Absolutely, bro.
Lovely. Hey,
Absolutely.
perfect time to announce it. We're also rebranding. We're gonna rebrand into City Views' old brand. So we'll take it. We'll take that. We'll be City Views now. You could be City Sites or
Or City
I'll
Views
DM you the old
V1.
logo, and then I'll let you take over.
perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
Well, that's really cool, bro. I'm excited
Yes.
for you. Excited to
Yeah,
see
that's
where it's
right.
gonna go.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I wanted to. You guys are the first to know, actually. The three of you right now in live time are the first to know. Besides, I talked to citizens just a tiny bit about it, but you guys are the first to hear all the details of what I'm
Honored.
planning. So,
Yes.
Honored.
I know all
and
of our
now the
fans are
that
honored
are
too.
watching
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm
Well,
actually live tweeting as we're talking about this, so everyone knows.
Oops. He already tweeted, "Yo, Views is quitting his Instagram. It's over, guys."
I
But
think I
hey,
would get so many angry DMs if
oh
I just
yeah.
like
From
if I
me,
announced,
from
"Hey
me.
guys, I'm not doing this
Yo,
anymore."
Jacob just told me that you're
Yep.
But yes, I think that will go ahead and wrap up the episode unless we got final notes or anything else we want to announce, boys. Of course, Christmas is coming up. It might be a little late at this point, but last second gifts, what you said, get some City Boys merch, spread the love. It's gonna be a lovely Christmas. We wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Stay warm. Jacob, you want to hit that outro, my boy?
With pleasure, good sirs. If you are watching this, make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you are listening to this, make sure you follow on Spotify. If you are either of them and you already are to their respective places, go to the other platform and do the thing. Make sure you rate 5 stars on Spotify, like, comment on YouTube, and most importantly, fellas, we all have them. Everybody else, I hope you've got them. Make sure you tell your mother you love them. Peace.
STL. STL.
STL. I have got to take a piss.
I'm leaving that in. I haven't stopped yet.
You gotta leave that in, bro. You got to leave that in.
A nice